The Denver Broncos' new uniforms are here and they look incredible. We throw it back to the 77s with today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos.
You are Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Broncos Country? Welcome into a brand new episode of Locked On Broncos, your daily Denver Broncos podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thank you so much to everybody in Broncos Country for tuning in, all the everydayers out there for making us your first listen of the day every single day. Just a reminder, you can get Locked On Broncos for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast. So make sure you do us a favor, hit that subscribe or that follow button so you never miss out on what's going on with your favorite team every single day, all year long. I'm Cody Roark, Broncos reporter for Mile High Sports, joined alongside, as always, by Sayre Bedinger, site expert over there, predominantlyorange.com. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Sayre, my friend, today in Broncos Country overall, there's a lot of talk, there's a lot of discussion. Monday was a big day for Broncos Country because the team officially announced their new uniforms. The months of speculation, the months of the mock-ups are all finished. Going into Thursday's NFL draft, the Broncos' first-round draft pick, if they choose to stay there, will more than likely be rocking a brand new uniform come Thursday. A lot of excitement. I feel like a lot of mixed reviews here in Broncos Country, but new uniforms are here, and there's some, good news there with them.
There's really good news with it, Cody. I mean, it's let's just touch on the fact that it's the first time. I guess in a lot of Broncos Country's lifetimes that we've seen a new uniform for this team. I mean, it's been almost 30 years since the Broncos unveiled those uniforms that they won back-to-back Super Bowls with back in the 97 season. And that was like my childhood. That was the uniform that I like when I became a fan of the Broncos. That was the uniform they were wearing. So I never really knew the Orange Crush uniforms all that much, but I love this new redesign, Cody. I mean, you know me, I went on rants on this podcast about the white helmets with the color rush, and I'm not trying to toe the company line or anything. That's the thing I've been most accused of on Twitter these days is like, you would have liked anything, or you would, you're just saying that you like it because of the team, blah, blah, blah. No, I really like the redesign. I think they nailed it, Cody. And I think that the Broncos ultimately, they put years worth of thought into this, right? And it's just, it was always going to be met with a ton of pushback, but I think the details on it, really nice. I love the change up in the number font, the matte blue helmets. I mean, everything it's just a clean look. I've already got the white PS2 jersey on the way for me and my son. So, hey, I'm digging these, and I think the Broncos crushed it.
Well, I think a lot of it too, the feedback in the team president, Damani Leach, said that factored in over 10,000 fan survey results. A large portion of Broncos Country wanted the team logo to remain the same, wanted the base color of the team to remain the same, which is the case. It's just, like I said, the helmet, as you mentioned, is a matte blue, which is a nice look on it. We'll take a look here, obviously, at the orange uniforms here for the Broncos. To be honest with you, I liked the home version. You're going to get the matte blue helmet. You're going to get the orange jersey and the white pants. I think that's a better looking version of the overall orange jersey because, Denver for the last ever handful of years, there was the change there where they went orange and white as their primary home. I think this is a more modernized version of that. I really like that in terms of the color scheme. I think the matte blue helmet is a good addition here for the Denver Broncos. You can do so many different combinations, though, with all these uniforms, Sayre. And I think that's the one thing I really like here is that it's not just, okay, it's either orange and white pants. It could be orange and blue pants. It could be, if the Broncos want to get very, very tricky, they can go deeper into the blue jersey that they have, obviously, in terms of their alternate where they have a blue jersey, white pants. They can go blue jersey, blue pants, blue jersey, orange pants. Like the opportunities and, in the scheme designs that they have here are endless overall. But I wanted to get your initial thoughts on it because I do feel like there is a portion of Broncos Country that wasn't excited about this. I felt like our good friend Andrew Mason did a really great job on Twitter. The last time the Broncos changed uniforms, it was met with a lot of criticism and a lot of skepticism. And there was a lot of anger in the fan base, but it ultimately led to the Broncos going back-to-back in the Super Bowl in 97 and 98 there. So, not saying that's going to happen here for the Broncos, but change can be good. And I feel like for a while, Denver has needed a newly revamped uniform. I like it initially here in comparison to what they were wearing.
I like it a lot, honestly. I think you grow kind of used to the way that things are over time. There was people on Twitter lamenting the side stripe jerseys that we've been wearing for the last 28 years going away. And I think that really, I mean, it comes down to, the devil you know versus the devil you don't. Everybody really wanted those throwback uniforms to be the permanent uniform, or like a modernized version of the Color Rush uniforms to be made the permanent uniform, because it's a safe thing. It's what people know. It's very, very simple. But I think, your comment that we were having some discourse on Twitter the other day, Cody, about the Bengals uniform. I think you're onto something there. The Bengals, the Chargers, there's some serious similarities between the design, like language, I guess you could say, between the uniforms, where you see the Broncos they have the new number font in the front, and they have the name right above it, the name Broncos. And then the side stripe on the sleeve, it's meant to be like we heard rumored for the longest time, kind of that maybe a little nod to the Rocky Mountains or something like that. But it's just a simple stripe on the side. You eliminate the numbers on the shoulder pad, which is another big detail that's similar to both the Bengals and the Chargers there. So I think there's something to that. And those teams look really good. The Los Angeles Rams, another team that I really like what they've done in terms of just simplifying. It's kind of the way that Nike has been redesigning uniforms, quite frankly, in recent years, Cody. So maybe we shouldn't be overall surprised by this direction. It's not just the Broncos that went into this. They collaborate with Nike on these things, and is the design language that Nike has been using. And people may be wondering, like, why the heck are you talking about the uniforms on an entire episode? This is a momentous occasion in Broncos country history. I mean, this is big. A uniform redesign we ain't no Jaguars or something like that change uniforms every 2 years. The Broncos haven't changed uniforms almost since a lot of people have been alive. So this is crazy. And I think it looks really good. I love the design language. I love the combinations, the helmet, all the touches are just all there, Cody. I'm all in on these new uniforms.
I want to touch on the away jerseys here. Obviously, I like the white color jersey with the blue pants. In terms of an away combination, I think the white on white would be fire. I think you could go white, orange pants on the bottom on the road. I think you can go white on blue in terms of that. So just a lot of combinations that I hope the Broncos do throw out in several road games this year. I mean, last year we saw an interesting one where they did wear kind of their away uniforms at home in one game. I think it was against the Commanders, if I'm not mistaken. But I'm down for more color options. It seems like the NFL is expanding their palette a little bit as well here. But look, Broncos country, we want to get your initial thoughts here on Denver's new uniforms, the home, the away, the alternate. But we are going to dive deep into one thing that Broncos country was wanting, and that was throwbacks. The team unveiled new throwback jerseys as well. But there's also one player who is behind that, who's been linked to a lot of rumblings and rumors. Does this mean that Patrick Surtain is safe from being traded after being a poster boy for the throwback uniforms? We'll take a look at that and much more in today's brand new episode, Locked on Broncos. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is brought to you by our friends over there at the Game Time app. And folks, look, Game Time is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball. So you know what that means? That means that you can take your friends, you can take your family, your wife, your girlfriend, or ladies, you can take your husband or boyfriend out to a ball game here, especially here in Denver at Coors Field. The Rockies have a series with the Padres. You want to go catch some afternoon baseball. You want to get good atmosphere in terms of the overall Coors Field vibe. Well, Game Time is a place where you can get tickets, and tickets get cheaper leading up to the first pitch. So the closer it gets to pitch, the cheaper the tickets get. Make sure you take advantage through the Game Time app. On top of that, the NBA playoffs are also ongoing. And if you're a Denver Nuggets fan, you can catch the action at Ball Arena, or you can catch games 3 and games 4 on the road against the Lakers at the Crypto Arena. Game Time, the one thing I really like about their app outside of finding affordable tickets is their seat views. You're going to get a panoramic view of all the action inside of the app, so you can make the best informed decision on if those seats are the best fit for you. So check it out on the Game Time app. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed.
Denver Broncos throwback uniforms are back officially. And you know what? Patrick Surtain ain't going anywhere, as he was featured in the team's promotional video for unveiling this re-release of a 1977 throwback. Cody and I are going to talk all about it and why those pieces match up together on today's episode, Locked On Broncos, but want to say thank you to every single one of you that makes Locked On Broncos your first listen of the day every single day. You didn't know that you were coming to Locked On Broncos for some fashion advice from Cody and I, but look, we're talking Broncos uniforms this week. We're talking NFL draft this week, and you want to stay tapped in wherever and however you get your podcast, free and available on all platforms as well as on YouTube, where you can watch the show and engage with other members of Broncos Country. Cody, let's talk about it, because this is what everybody was anticipating. I mean, we knew the throwbacks were coming. Shout out to folks like our friend Mario, who had kind of revealed that to everybody on Twitter, and the Broncos listening to the fan base saying, hey, we want to see those throwbacks. It's been a long time since the Broncos wore these uniforms. I don't think I can remember ever seeing them, Cody, as far as them kind of throwing it back. And I think Brian Greasy, that era is about the last time the Broncos did throw it back to these uniforms. So early 2000s maybe. But look, it's high time. It's been a long time coming. The throwbacks are back, and a really great job by the Broncos incorporating a team legend and the team's best player in the promo video.
I would say the more modern look that we had at some of the throwbacks, and this dates back to the AFL in terms of Broncos history, is when Josh McDaniels was the head coach of the Broncos, and they wore those ugly white and orange, or obviously like the brown the brown and yellow, the white and yellow ones on the road. I remember Eddie Royal had like a kick return and a punt return touchdown against the Chargers on Monday Night Football in that game, and then they had the big home win against the New England Patriots in the brown and yellow jerseys that they had thrown there. Thank goodness that they didn't bring any resemblance of those back. Throw that in the fire, let it burn. But the new throwback is here. And I thought when you look at it overall, I think the overall thought process that went into it, I like how in the promo video for it, in the reveal, it's Patrick Surtain, as you mentioned, going into what is a thrift store, a throwback store there. And all of a sudden, Randy Gradishar says, I got something for you. Hands him the jersey. It's like the past recognizing the future here. Well done from a marketing standpoint there by the Broncos. But overall, I mean, it is probably the cleanest jersey look combination out of all the jerseys that the Broncos did reveal. This is one that I feel like you look at that old school color in terms of the helmet, the old school D logo, and then the jersey color as well, the white pants with, I'd say, the orange stripes, and then the sock combination. They're like, this is probably going to be, when Madden comes out, if this jersey is in there, this is probably going to be the most played Broncos uniform combination in Madden this upcoming season. But I do feel like there was a lot of outrage, to be honest with you, at first when the jerseys got revealed. Everyone was like, where's the throwback? Well, team president Damani Leach said, hey, hold your horses, pun intended. We got that coming for you. And then an hour later, bang, it dropped. And tell you what, it was marvelous. The jersey combination is beautiful. If I were to go purchase a jersey myself, I'd probably look to purchase a throwback. But I think a lot of fans are wondering, like, to your point in conversation, Patrick Surtain being the star of that doesn't necessarily mean he's not off the table in terms of a potential trade. I know there are a lot of people talking up, especially with some of the rumors this week. Philadelphia Eagles rumors heating up that they're looking to trade up to potentially get a cornerback, or to trade down, depending on what they may do. But they may look to go get Patrick Surtain, who obviously, when you look at the ties that bind, Vic Fangio was banging the table for PS2 in 2021 when he was the head coach of the Denver Broncos. Christian Parker is the secondary coach, passing game coordinator down there in Philadelphia with Vic right now. Obviously, you know how I feel. I think I know how you feel. Broncos country does not want to give up Patrick Surtain. Now, there's a portion of the fan base that does. I think he's too valuable of a player. But I also think right now, even with him starring in this reveal of terms of the jersey, he's on the team right now, but that doesn't necessarily mean that he's safe from potentially being traded, which unfortunately, until the draft passes, we're going to have to worry about that being a possibility here. So I would exercise caution if you're a Broncos fan in terms of that. Sayre, I know you mentioned that you just bought a jersey for you and your son. How awful would that be if you bought that jersey, they end up trading him this week, and all of a sudden now you have two brand new Broncos jerseys with PS2? I think there needs to be some sort of, I don't know, clause, like a protection clause. I don't even know where I'm going with this. I just think that fans often at times buy jerseys of players that are premier, and obviously, like, you know, it's safe. Like, this is a safe pick. We used to think Justin Simmons the safest bet you can in terms of buying a Broncos jersey. Well, now PS2, like with the draft coming up this week, there's a lot of uncertainty there. I know that PS2 wants to stay in Denver. I can tell you that, you know, personally. But right now, the business side is very, very interesting. And obviously, it's going to factor into some of the stuff that we talked about earlier, because the Denver Broncos also made a move, adding a veteran cornerback to the mix, which we'll dive into later on today's episode of the show. But your initial thoughts here on PS2, maybe the ties that bind here especially coming off the heels of this throwback jersey reveal.
Well, my first impression was that if they're featuring him in that video, that they ain't trading him. So it's interesting to hear you say kind of the contrary there. I think I mean, it definitely kind of raises the eyebrows a little bit. And certainly you can't help but wonder any of the guys that were featured. Like right now, the Broncos kind of just had to pick some players to feature because, well, that's what they've got to work with. So you pick the best players or the guys that are captains or things like that. And so I think with PS2 being featured in the throwback video, it would be super shocking to me to see him. But I guess maybe you never know. I mean, it's not like Sean Payton is going to the merchandising team or the marketing team and being like, hey, you know what? Yeah, we're not going to do this. I mean, he's not going to reveal any of his plans right now to anybody. He said that. He and George Payton both said if anything goes down or whatever we know, it's going to be between the two of us. And so I mean, we assume some things, or we can assume some things. You can make a well-educated guess towards things, but maybe you're right. Maybe there is nothing to this. Maybe it is just featuring the play. I mean, we see the Cortland Sutton jerseys that are all over the team store and all over Fanatics and things like that. And we don't know what his future holds. Certainly. I mean, they may have printed all of those jerseys in vain. And I think, you know, the nice thing is that Fanatics and I'm sure other companies, they have a 90-day policy where if a player does get traded, you know, you can exchange that jersey or still give it back within that 90-day window. So that is nice. But look, I mean, yeah, you get a PS2 jersey in the mix right now. You feel like he's safe beyond Thursday. Then all of a sudden a blockbuster deal goes down. I mean, that's kind of the way that it is when you buy jerseys in the NFL or any pro sport. So I don't know, Cody. I feel like I read into it initially as, okay, now I feel like he's safe. If the team is moving forward with him as kind of the poster child for this announcement, that makes sense that he would be safe. But until an extension is done or until the draft is over, I guess you never know.
Hey, that's the hope. Look, keep PS2 in Denver. I've been a long opponent of it. Look, I came out when he was drafted initially. I like the pick. I've always liked the pick, and I've held firm that they shouldn't trade him. Like Denver at this point, if they're choosing not to rebuild, which I view the way was a held franchise conversation. Well, how many backs win? Well, he'd call other games against you. He's arguably the best cornerback in all of pro football, and Denver could look to build to that secondary potentially in the NFL draft. But they did add another player into the mix on Monday, right before the NFL draft. Will it change their strategy? We'll break that down and much more here on today's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Sometimes we all need the opportunity to get something off of our chest, whether that's big or small. Certain things can really start to get to you, and it's important to let that out, especially to someone who's unbiased on your life. So I want to tell you about how I'm feeling about something. Now, for me, life is not easy, and I think for a lot of people, we go through our day-to-day, whether it's in our personal, professional lives, we try to do the best that we can, but sometimes things happen and we struggle, and it's okay to not have all the answers, but you can find solutions to those answers, to those problems that you may be dealing with therapy. That's where BetterHelp came in handy for me. Just about 2 years ago, I started using BetterHelp therapy, and one thing I utilized with my therapist, I dealt with stress, anxiety, and also trying to figure out how to have better time management to not interfere with my personal life, like balancing work and my personal life is super important to me. That's an area I struggled with, and my therapist helped me. Now, therapy is important. Therapy can be different for everyone, and most of us have bigger problems than our favorite sports teams, and it's important to get things off your chest every once in a while. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be flexible and, best of all, suited to your schedule to meet you wherever you're at. Visit BetterHelp.com/lockedon to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/lockedon. Today's Locked On Broncos podcast is also brought to you by our friends over there at FanDuel Sportsbook. And as you know, FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook, and right now is the best time to get in on the action. You want to know why, folks? Because the NHL playoffs are here, the NBA playoffs are here, and MLB baseball just kicked off, and you can get in on the action, whether it's on the ice, on the hardwood, or if you're going out to the ball game here. It's playoff time, and right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. With the NBA playoffs going on, you can go on in terms of the Denver Nuggets versus Los Angeles Lakers series. You can project who's going to win games 2, games 3, and games 4. You can even do player props. Is Nikola Jokic going to have a triple-double? Those are some of the things you can get in on the action on the FanDuel Sportsbook app. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's #1 sportsbook. As we jump into the fourth quarter action on today's episode, Locked On Broncos, want to say thank you so much once again to everybody in Broncos Country for tuning in and making us your first listen of the day every single day. Will the Denver Broncos draft strategy change after they added a veteran cornerback into the mix earlier this week, just a few days before the NFL draft begins? That's the question we're going to ask here today. Obviously, a couple weeks ago, we did an episode of the show. Veteran cornerback Levi Wallace, who played for the Buffalo Bills, the Pittsburgh Steelers, he was set to visit the Denver Broncos, went through that, and Denver was kind of playing the wait and see approach. And we were all waiting to hear, like, okay, hey, he visited. We didn't hear anything of it. What's going on there? Well, they agreed to terms on Monday morning, and now he is a veteran cornerback addition that's been added into the mix here for the Broncos. Obviously played a little bit of a higher role there for the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, which was one of the best defensive units in all the NFL last season. However, last year, Sayre, Wallace did struggle a little bit, gave up 45 catches on 70 targets. According to Pro Football Reference, allowed 6 touchdowns through the air. I think a lot of fans are looking at this move right now, and they're saying, well, he wasn't very good last year. Why did Denver sign him? Denver isn't making any splash signings right now, but I think we also get too caught up at times in looking at the previous year, right? A player performed poorly and we, I think, automatically sometimes assume, well, if he played poorly that year, he's going to play poorly the rest of his career in the NFL. A lot of it depends on environment and circumstance, and certainly he's coming into a Broncos cornerback room now, even though with all his starting experience, he's going to compete for a starting job with Riley Moss and Damari Mathis, which I think that is what you should do anyways. Open up the floor of the competition at that position room in and of itself. What are your thoughts here on the Broncos adding Wallace into the mix here?
Well, I really like the signing. First, just off the hoof, you mentioned it. He did give up 6 touchdowns last year, according to Pro Football Reference, but the consistency before that was pretty darn good. I mean, the highest QB rating into his coverage that he allowed prior to that was 85.5. 2022, 4 interceptions, allowed a QB rating of 73. The year before that, 2 interceptions, allowed a QB rating of 72.6. And so you kind of look at the bigger sample size as opposed to, like you said, just looking at, hey, what's the most recent that he's done? He's obviously going to be that bad or worse in Denver, as opposed to saying over the course of his career, he's generally been this kind of guy. So I like the signing. I think it once again, as we've mentioned, and I mean, I don't know what's more annoying at this point, Cody, Sean Payton saying the vision of a player or me saying raise the floor of a room on the roster. Feels like you're raising the floor here at the cornerback position. And maybe to your point about PS2, maybe this gives you a veteran option if you are able to consummate a trade like that. I guess you never know. It's not a direct replacement by any means.
No.
You just never know with, when you're raising the floor at a position, and you've got Riley Moss, Damari Mathis, Jaquan McMillan, a lot of youth there, not a lot of veteran experience. So I saw some people compare this a bit to the Fabian Moreau deal. I don't think it's very similar, in my opinion, Cody. This is a guy that you're acquiring in April as opposed to somebody who was still available in late July. And there's a big difference between the way the NFL teams view those types of players. So this is a better signing, in my opinion. That's what I'm trying to say there. I like this move. Gives you a veteran option, and it gives you a fallback plan. You got young guys out there. You want to be able to have confidence in them, but you also have to be able to turn to somebody if things start going a little haywire.
And I think it's a low risk, high reward type of move. Generally, as you mentioned, his body of work has been relatively consistent, a lot of starting experience. He's had a lot of passes thrown in his direction. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, around 54 passes defensed throughout his entire NFL career. And look, obviously, I think anybody opposite of Patrick Surtain, if he's still on the team, you can almost expect and guarantee that other side's probably going to get more targets thrown their way than anything else. And I would like to hope that PS2 is going to play a lot more press man-to-man coverage this year. Denver's expressed a lot of confidence in Jaquan McMillan. Look, we talked to George Paton last week and Sean Payton at the pre-draft press conference, and we asked them about their cornerback room. He said he likes the cornerback room as it is. He talked about, we got our young players. We like Riley. We like Damari. We got a veteran in Tremont Smith. We like our nickel and Jaquan McMillan. They got some other young guys in the mix that are developing. But usually going into training camp, you're going to add guys here. So the fact that this is a move here in late April versus, as you mentioned, right before or during training camp, it just means that, hey, Denver's trying to add as many pieces as they can, quality pieces, to help really try to build the roster. Look, this is the money ball approach here still. But as I mentioned earlier, I believe it's a low risk, high reward type of opportunity for Denver's secondary here. Now, I think we have to ask ourselves the question here: does the addition of Wallace maybe eliminate the Broncos now from maybe considering cornerback with some of their high end options? I'm not I'm talking obviously with right now. Denver's got 8 picks. They have a first round pick. They have a third round pick, no second round pick. But could Denver still maybe look at a cornerback in round 1? Could they maybe look at a cornerback in round number 3? I think that's still a possibility here. But I think now that Denver added a cornerback now, I think cornerback in round number 1 for them becomes less likely at this point. And maybe we see it as a round 3, round 4 type of move where they're adding another guy into the mix here overall. I'm curious for your thoughts on if it changes maybe Denver's draft strategy, or if you were the GM, would it change your strategy on how you view the position?
I think it would make another top 100 pick at the cornerback position even more of a head scratcher, because the Broncos have already invested so much there. Like you said, unless they trade PS2, I mean, you've already invested in the guys that you really like at the position. You feel like you have a starter caliber player in Riley Moss. You said that same thing last year about Damari Mathis, and now you've got an actual proven starting caliber player in Levi Wallace. The team seems committed to Jaquan McMillan. So to me, a top 100 corner would just be you'd be settling. You would be passing on tremendous offensive talent in this class of players that's coming in to say, look, cornerback is a valuable position, and he was the best on our board. It's like, there's no way you can tell me that there's not a quarterback or receiver, offensive lineman, or even a tight end that would be worth taking to upgrade one of an offense that's really been struggling for the better part of 8 years. I know Sean Payton has a plan. I know that he can maximize talent, but you need to get some more talent. As we round it all back and talk about this jersey reveal, Cody, the fact that the Broncos had to have, and I love Tim Patrick, don't get me wrong. Tim Patrick being featured is a very, I guess it's indicative of where this team's roster is at. Jaleel McLaughlin being featured is indicative of where the roster is at. Garrett Bowles. I mean, so you look at this team's talent and you're like, okay, we need some guys that could be featured in a jersey reveal, like a
rookie quarterback.
A rookie quarterback coming in. So it ain't going to be a corner that comes in and really boosts this team. I would rather trade it to a team that needs a corner like the Packers or something like that, or the Eagles, like you mentioned. So I don't see the need for it. And although you don't always draft for need, man, the Broncos have so many other areas to address.
I tell you, the more and more we get closer to the NFL draft with these new uniforms that have come out, this might be the Oregon Duck fan in me, but I just can't imagine not seeing Bo Nix in one of these uniforms. I think that would be absolutely fire if we're being very, very honest with you. Could it be a J.J. McCarthy? Have a strong feeling that quarterback is going to be what we see Denver go with this week. And look, obviously, Broncos Country, we're going to have you covered in the build-up to Thursday's NFL draft. Sayre Bedinger, myself, will have you covered. Denver's going to select a guy. We'll react to the news a little bit after the pick is made. We'll give you every angle on it. Is this a good move? Is this a bad move for Denver? And we're going to share our thoughts, obviously, on Locked On Broncos. But until then, it is the buildup for the NFL draft. There's going to be a lot of smokescreen. Could Denver make some more roster moves this week? That's the question that we ask, and we'll have you covered, obviously, on tomorrow's brand new episode, Locked On Broncos. Broncos Country, appreciate you so much for tuning in. We'll see you next time for a brand new episode of the show.